Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Qwalion Busby broadcasting again. Starting to like this and enjoy this live. And briefly, I want to talk about what is protein. I have a few sources that I have that we're going to review just real quick. But people usually think that protein is necessary in our diets for, I guess, longevity or good health or to sustain weight or what have you. And these proteins are, I guess, they come from animals and beans and legumes and things of that nature. So, personally, I don't know what protein is. I can't tell you what protein is because I don't see it growing anywhere. I see grass growing, I see rocks, I see trees, the sun, the moon. I see humans, I see animals. That's what I see. I don't see protein growing anywhere. But scientists say that we need protein. So we're going to review that scientist. We're going to go back to the scientist that said there were there were proteins. Then we're going to look at a contemporary doctor or maybe a scientist as well, and look at his perspective of a protein. And then I'm just going to briefly talk about my lifestyle, my diet, and my physique, my body. And then you should be able to go and look at my photos, some of my pictures that I have on my Google, um, my photos that are in my Google page. So let me go over here to screen share first so I can share the screen so that you guys can see what I see. And we're going to get started with this whole protein thing. What is protein? Alrighty, so which document do I want to pull up first? All right, so I'm sure you guys can see what I see. What is protein? It's by Mark White, MD. It's copyright 2008. This is the source. Wikipedia, we learned the following: the word protein comes from the Greek word prota, meaning of primary importance. Proteins were first described and named by the Swedish chemist Johns Jacob Berzelius in 1838. If you take that name and you plug it into Google, you're going to find a lot of information about protein. You're going to realize that protein did not exist prior to 1838 or that time period, that time frame, because I'm sure that Johns or um, scientist or Dr. Berzelius got his perspective of information from somewhere else. But however, the central role of proteins in living organisms was not fully appreciated until 1926 when James B. Sumner showed that the enzyme urease was a protein. And the first protein to be sequenced was insulin by Frederick Sanger, who won the Nobel Prize for this achievement in 1958. So this protein phenomenon is very new, very young, and humans have been on Earth for millions of years, as far as archaeologists can, as far as with their evidence provides. The first protein structures to be solved included hemoglobin and myoglobin, which is components of the blood, by Max Perutz and Sir John Cowdery Kendrew, respectively, in 1958. My grandmother was born before that time, and my dad was, I think he was born around 1958. So this is how young, how new this whole protein phenomenon that they're pushing on the community is. All the foods, eat protein, eat protein, eat protein. And my my dad is older than the time that protein became very popular. So the three-dimensional structures of both proteins were first determined by X-ray diffraction analysis. The structures of myoglobin and hemoglobin won the 1962 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their discoveries. So is hemoglobin a protein? Apparently so, but hemoglobin consists of 4 amino acid chains or 4 protein molecules that come together to make a protein complex. Is hemoglobin one molecule or 4 molecules that constitutes one protein? Who gets to decide? Is hemoglobin one protein or 4 proteins that now constitutes a protein complex? Most definitions focus on the fact that a protein is a linear chain of amino acids. So how does hemoglobin fit into the definition, since it is not exactly a single linear chain? Other definitions for protein focus on the genetic code or the constituents that make proteins, but we can chemically alter the amino acids in a protein, and so we can easily go outside the genetic code to make molecules. Are they proteins? Regardless, since a protein merely represents a sequence of amino acids, and this sequence always reliably folds thermodynamically into a single stable shape, it is the sequence and not the shape that defines a protein. That is easy to understand. However, it is long known that a protein can strangely become mishapen, like in the case of prion disease, an example of which is mad cow disease. Do 2 molecules with the same amino acid sequences, yet different shapes, represents one protein or 2 different proteins? Who gets to decide? What precisely is a protein? On what criteria do we accurately determine if a molecule is or is not properly called a protein? Do we base our definition on a single parameter or on multiple parameters? Which parameters do we use and which ones receive the most emphasis? Why does it even matter? Lest we forget, the word protein comes from the Greek word prota, meaning of primary importance, which is equally true in life and language. So the definition for molecular information, molecular language, and the genetic code all depends first on the definition of protein. Strange but true, our exact definition of protein determines the exact meaning of these other important words as well. So again, what is a protein? The plain truth is that we have no workable definition of a protein at this time. There are profound flaws in all of the current definitions, and none of them have obtained consensus status. So that's the first. That's all I'm going to read from this source. Basically, I'm going to stop right there where it says there really is pretty much there is no such thing as protein. You know, there are profound flaws in all of the current definitions. So I want to go over to this source on www.d.umn.edu. Just a source I pulled up, and it was a PDF, and I believe it's a PowerPoint over the Neolithic period. The Neolithic period is basically the caveman period. So we're dealing with Europe. We're not dealing with Africa, with China. We may be dealing with China. We may be dealing with the Middle East as well, but primarily we're dealing with Europe because this is European studies. Proteins. The word protein comes from the Greek word proteos, meaning primary. So first described and named by the Swedish chemist John Jacob Berzelius in 1838. There you go. There's that name again. The central role of proteins in living organisms was not fully appreciated until 1926, when James B. Sumner showed that the enzyme urease was a protein. The first protein to be sequenced was insulin. Proteins, organic compounds made of amino acids arranged in a linear chain and joined together by peptide bonds between the carboxyl and amino groups of adjacent amino and residues. And these are two different sources in two different areas. So, and then they say proteins are essential parts of organisms and participate in every process within cells. So that's it right there. I'm going to cut. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to go back over to my face. I'm going to try to anyways. All right. I'm going to take off screen share. All right. So I don't know. What are your thoughts about protein? I said that I was going to first read a few sources. Then after I read a few sources about protein, just kind of talk about what is this protein. So this guy just comes out of nowhere. It's this chemist. This guy that can be you. This guy that can be me. They're reading works. Perhaps they're using equipment back then, I guess, to try to, I guess, look into blood and look into things and try to find out what protein. And here you have it in 1950s. It's just now becoming popular. And protein crave. Like, you can't go anywhere without someone saying, where do you get your protein from? Because I'm a fruitarian. I'm a true vegetarian because I don't eat anything that comes from an animal. I don't eat anything that comes from milk or anything. So if all of this is true, should I be dead? Should I be sick? But the exact is it is the exact opposite. I am healthier than almost anyone that I know. Everywhere that I go, I'm healthier than them. I haven't been sick, and ever since I've taken out protein out of my diet. So, what is protein? And this just a hoax? Is this just who is coming up with this protein thing? So, I think it's very important that we, try to figure out, is this protein thing important or is it not important? And personally, I just don't think protein is important at all. I went from 230 pounds all the way down to 152 pounds, and I was actually scared or afraid at first because losing 70 pounds is it can be kind of scary. But I didn't want to break my diet of going back to eating meat, going back to eating dairy or anything like that because I was feeling so good, and I had never. I was always big, I was always heavy. So after I lost all that weight, I was kind of scared. But then, I stuck with the fruits, I stuck with a bunch of mangoes, watermelon, and then my weight began to increase. My weight began to increase. So my weight went from 152 all the way up to 160, and I stayed there for a complete year, complete 12 months. And never in my entire life had I stayed consistent with my weight so long. I never stayed consistent with my weight for any longer than in 12 months, and I did. This year, my weight increased another 12 pounds, so now I weigh 172 pounds. So I'm kind of curious as to where my weight is going to go. Right now, if I wanted to, I could probably compete in a bodybuilder competition, but I will obviously have to give myself about 3 or 4 months to prep for it to knock out some kinks and get some good things going to get my abs and my back muscles a little bit more defined. But other than that, my body is in excellent condition, excellent shape, and I'm not eating protein. I'm simply not eating protein. So what is protein? Is it important? Is it not? You be the decision maker on that. Just wanted to make this quick broadcast to see, just to throw it out there at you guys, whoever may decide to view it, and maybe it could change the way that you think about things, think about protein, and also may get you thinking about switching your diet from a animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. Maybe become vegan or become vegetarian or at least paleo, something like that. So Thanks for viewing.